the first time in what seems like a very long time, the Texas football team is over 500. We're talking the Red River Showdown and what might be the biggest loss in American sports history. Coming up next on College Crossfire.
I guess we'll get into it, guys. Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
Roll up the sleeves for this one.
This Dallas team was very overrated from the start, like they always are every year.
The talent's there. Tevin Mack, Eric Davis, and Cohen Roach are maybe three of the most talented guys in the team.
Oh, that's an ugly shirt.
Always a pleasure having you on, guys.
Time to freak out.
Good evening and welcome in the College Crossfire. I'm your host, Mark Skol Jr. Thank you for joining us on your Wednesday night. Let's go ahead and meet our panel. To my left, it's Nick Kucholtz. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
Mark, it's been a year since I've been on this show. I am so giddy. I feel like a kid on Christmas morning. Seriously.
Dude, it's going to be great to have you on. It's going to be a great show. First timer, Christine Taylor in the middle between these two guys. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm excited. I'm ready to see what they have to say, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, Christine.
Glad to have you on, Christine. And then last but not least, Thomas Finch on the end, freshman. It's your first time. How's it feel?
I'm really excited. I'm ready to go 1-0.
1-0. That's that 1-0, the Tom Herman mindset.
Tap the brakes a little
All right,
bit
guys,
on that.
let's get into it. Texas went into double overtime for the second time this season, and unlike last time, the Longhorns came out on top, 40-34 over Kansas State. It was a solid performance for Texas against a Kansas State team that is always so well prepared. There's a ton to take away from this game, but what impressed you most from the Kansas State win? We'll start with you, Nick.
This is an easy one for me, Mark. Offensive line play from the Longhorns. They struggled all season long. Three guys in particular. Terrell Cooney making his first start as a Longhorn at center did an exceptional job. Then you throw in Derek Kerstetter as a true freshman at right tackle. He's done incredible in a situation where Derek Wareheim and Tom Herman needed him to step up. And Denzel Okafor had his best game at left tackle. Jake McMillan and Vahe have been pretty consistent at guard, but the two tackles and an excellent job from Cooney at center led Texas to the victory because it gave Sam Ehlinger time. If the offensive line can play like that going forward for Texas the rest of the season, normally offensive production and good offensive line play run parallel. I was very impressed with the performance from the O-line against a very good Kansas State defensive line.
Yeah, that Kansas State defense is so well prepared, and 166 yards on the ground. Granted, over 100 of those were from Sam Ehlinger. Would like to see the run game get more involved.
Absolutely.
But Christine, what about you?
I agree with Nick. They really impressed me, the new offensive unit that we had with Cooney, Okafor, and Kerstetter. So we had amazing plays from them, not one sack against Ehlinger throughout the entire game, and they even pushed the winning score. So I thought they played really well.
Not one sack from Ehlinger. We're going to get into that a little bit later. You guys don't know about that one yet, but that's a good point right there. Thomas, what about you? What was the most impressive thing?
Well, what really impressed me was Tim Beck's play call. They put up 27 points in regulation against a very disciplined Kansas State defense. Then they go into overtime and score 2 touchdowns against the 15th ranked red zone defense in the nation. Furthermore, I thought he did a really good job of breaking down Kansas State's man defense with the slant pattern where the inside guy catches the ball and the outside guy goes out and blocks. I thought he did a really good job with that.
Tim Beck has been under scrutiny all season long, and he definitely showed some progress in his play calling. I'm going to go with Thomas here. You're getting your first points ever on College Crossfire. I do think the offensive line was amazing, but Tim Beck, I think he definitely helped out. I think it also helps out that Sam Ehlinger is the quarterback out there. All right, guys, one of the big stars, like we said, in the Kansas State game was the true freshman quarterback, Sam Ehlinger. In just his third collegiate start, Ehlinger was named the CBS Freshman of the Week. And oh yeah, he had a total of 487 yards, which is third in school history for total yards in a game, only behind Vince Young and Gerard Hurd. Sam has been impressive as a freshman, but how far can he take Texas this season? Christine, get us started on this one.
I think we've definitely seen Sam's potential this season. He has scored the most points by a true freshman in a game in Longhorn history. Then we have the Longhorns averaging 40 points per game with him starting as opposed to 29 with Ehlinger. So I think he really has potential to take the team far if he gets the chance to start every game.
Ooh, I personally would love to see Sam start every game. He certainly just has that fire when he's under center. Thomas?
Well, Sam is finally taking the reins for this team. I thought against San Jose State, against USC, he was shaky, he looked inexperienced, but against Kansas State, he finally looked in tune with his receivers. He threw for 380 yards, which is the most a quarterback's thrown for Texas since Colt McCoy in 2009. So I think the Big 12 title game, I don't think it's out of reach. However, I think it's more likely a second or third place finish.
Second or third place finish would be a big step from anything I've seen over the last 4 years, so that would definitely be impressive. Nick, you're a big proponent of Shane Buechele.
I was just about to say, as you know, I've been a defender of Shane Buechele throughout the season early on. Not necessarily because I'm remarkably impressed with Buechele, but because I wasn't sure if Ellinger was ready yet to take the reign as quarterback. He proved me incredibly wrong on Saturday, not just because of his stat line. There's just a passion and grit that he plays with that Texas fans have not seen since probably Colt McCoy. He grew up a Longhorn fan, as we know. Incredible ball player, but incredible passion as well. As far as Texas can go with him, I'm not ready to say they have a good chance at making the Big 12 championship game, but I think they can definitely compete. They have a lot of tough games coming up. Oklahoma this weekend, as we know. Oklahoma State at home the week after, and then later 2 tough road games in TCU and in Morgantown, West Virginia. But with Sam at quarterback, obviously played very well on Saturday. I think Texas can compete for a Big 12 championship. We might see them come December 2nd at AT&T Stadium.
I'm going to go with Nick here. All great points across the board, but he's very cautiously optimistic, and so am I, especially when it comes to Texas. You have to be cautiously optimistic. So Nick's getting the point here. Big game coming up for the Longhorns this weekend. It's the Red River Showdown with the Oklahoma Sooners. For the last 4 years, this game has flip-flopped back and forth. Oklahoma, Texas, Texas, Oklahoma. But in your mind, what is the most intriguing storyline from Saturday's OU game in Dallas? Thomas, go away.
So the most intriguing storyline to me is how can the defense get to Baker Mayfield and stop him? The Oklahoma passing offense is 5th in the nation. Baker Mayfield has thrown 0 picks and has the best quarterback rating in the country. That is helped in a large part because the OU offensive line has only given up 8 sacks. So the question is, can guys like Poona Ford, Charles Omenihu, Malik Jefferson, and the rest of the front 7 get to Mayfield, force him to make errant throws, and force turnovers? If we can do that, I think we have a good chance of coming away with a win.
I definitely think so, too. If the defense shows up, we all know what Baker can do. He's amazing, and he's also a big trash talker, sending some hate over Sam Ellinger's way. Big Lake Travis-Westlake rivalry. Nick?
That's where I want to start off, is a 5th-year redshirt senior quarterback versus a true freshman quarterback making only his 4th start. I think Sam's playing well beyond his years. I think Baker Mayfield doesn't have the offensive firepower that he's had recently at Oklahoma, losing D.D. Westbrook, Joe Mixon, and Samaje Perine in 1 year. And as Mark mentioned, the smack talk earlier in this week, surprise, surprise, Baker Mayfield talking mess. I think that's the first time we've seen that. I think that can motivate Sam even more. But a second storyline to look out for in this Texas-OU game, first time in over 7 decades where both Texas and Oklahoma have a new head coach in the same season. That'll be one to watch.
That's going to be, I mean, it's the first time, I believe, since like the 1930s that there's
over 70 years ago.
Yeah, so 1947, excuse me. All right, Christine, what about you? What's the biggest storyline?
So for me, the biggest storyline was the fact that we have 2 new head coaches on either side of the sideline. So we have Tom Herman, who has played UH against OU, which they did win, and he's also witnessed the OU-UT game as a graduate assistant back in the 90s. But it's going to be interesting to see how Lincoln Riley and Tom Herman play off this game with the new, like the rivalry that they haven't seen before.
I'm going with Christine here. All great points, but I really like the fact that you brought up the points about Herman being in this game for so many years, even though he wasn't always the head coach at Texas as a grad assistant back with Houston last year. That was a big game out at an NRG in Houston. So, Christine, you're getting the point. First point on Crossfire. Great debate, guys. After the break, we'll discuss that big U.S. loss, and we're heading to the ice for some hockey talk. That and more coming up next. Welcome back in the College Crossfire, your home for live sports debate on the 40 acres. Let's take a look at our scoreboard. It's ones across the board still. Anyone's game. Great debate, guys. All right, guys, let's get into it. Big news in the sports world last night was the U.S. men's soccer team. If the team won their match against Trinidad and Tobago, they would go to the World Cup next summer. But Trinidad and Tobago played spoiler, and it marks the first time since 1986 that the U.S. soccer team will not compete in the World Cup. To put that in perspective, none of us were even born yet, and Ronald Reagan was the president. The question is this, guys. How big of a blow is this loss to the growth of soccer in America? Nick, going to start on this one.
There's no doubt not making the World Cup stops, or at least halts for now, the growth of soccer in the United States. But even if the USA would have made the World Cup, I think the problem and a way that U.S. can truly and really grow this sport is if they fix the MLS, the club league in this country. Back in July, they were offered a $4 billion deal to change the format to a promotion-relegation format, and they turned it down. The commissioner of the league was very against it. He publicly spoke out against it in November. I don't understand that one bit. If you want to make a sport as big in your country as it is everywhere else in the world, maybe do the same things that everywhere else is doing, what every other country is doing. And finally, they have to get rid of the draft. You have to do what everyone else is doing in this situation as well, which is raise your own youth players, put them in your youth academy systems, and develop them until they're ready to play in the professional level. Great point, Nick. I think there's more fans in the United States, it seems like, of European teams than there are of the American teams. So I think if the big thing is just getting the MLS big. Christine?
So I agree with him that there's a lot of different problems that going into getting soccer more popular in the United States, but I'm going to go with more of like the economic side of things. So you have the whole issue with Fox Sports just purchasing the whole World Cup from ESPN in that $500 million deal, and now they have the added problems getting sponsors and finding all these things that really increase the popularity of the game. So people were watching for those 7 consecutive World Cups that the United States has qualified for, and now it's kind of moving it towards watching the World Cup for a team that's not our country's.
Yeah, very, very good point there, Christine. What about you, Thomas?
So here's my thought. I don't think it affects popularity that much. And I think soccer is not going to increase in popularity until people stop playing football. But that's going to happen sooner than people think. The NFL already has a lot of CTE problems. Boston University published a study 3 weeks ago that said that children who start playing football before the age of 12 are more likely to develop brain problems than those who start playing after. So parents are taking their kids out of football, and I think give it 10 or 20 years, and soccer is going to be to the level where the U.S. is not just trying to make it into the World Cup, but is contending to win it.
Thomas is a big proponent of football is the new football. But I'm going with Nick here. I think the MLS getting that popular, I think that's a key. So Nick's getting the point. The MLB playoffs are underway, and the League Championship Series matchups are halfway set. Yankees and Indians Game 5 is right now. Yankees up 3-2 in that one. Cubs, Nats, and DC tomorrow night. Scherzer versus Hendricks, which should be a good one. But one team that will not be playing in the ALCS is the Boston Red Sox. In fact, they haven't been to the ALCS since 2013, back when they won the World Series, and Boston responded by firing head coach John Farrell. And the question is this, guys, is this the right move for the Red Sox moving forward? Christine?
So I think it was the right move. Clearly there were a lot more problems with the Red Sox than the coaching staff, but John Farrell had this very aggressive style of running bases, and they ended up with the most outs out of any team in the MLB this season.
Wow.
On the bases. They had 81. And it really shows like where the line between aggressive and kind of foolish almost between how far you should make the players run on the bases. And I think that was a bad coaching decision.
I agree with that. 81 players caught on the bases. That's too big of a number for a team that's supposed to be competing for a World Series every year. Good point, Christine. Thomas?
I absolutely disagree with them firing him. John Farrell, since he got to Boston, has won the AL East 3 out of the 5 seasons. And one of those, he won the World Series title. To maintain consistency through a 182-game season is impressive. And to fire a man who's gotten you to the playoffs 3 times in 5 years, I think that is foolish, and I think it'll take him a little while to rebuild after firing him.
A little while to rebuild? You just said that they've been won the Division III the last 5 years.
But they got rid of the coach who led them there.
I don't know. I still think they have a lot of young talent on that team.
I'm kind of in the middle between what those two said. I don't agree with the decision, but I'm not surprised by it, knowing the city of Boston. The Red Sox have had a rich tradition of winning success in championships, World Series trophies. As we mentioned, in his first year, he won the World Series title. I know 2 last-place finishes followed that season, but the last 2 years winning the division title, and again, I understand that they lost in the ALDS. The AL East is a tough division. You can argue that it's the best in baseball. I don't personally think so. I think it's in the top 2, though. It's a very tough division every single season. I think John Farrell is a great manager who will have a new job with probably in the next couple of days or weeks. He's a great manager. I'm not surprised by it, but I don't agree with it either.
John Farrell is a great manager, but I'm going to go with Christine here. I really agree with your point about the base stealing. I think that's huge, and I'm a big Cubs fan, and as soon as they hired Joe Madden, everything flipped. So that could be some kind of thing that sparks in Boston. So good point there by Christine. Hockey season is here, and we've seen a lot around the NHL so far. The Las Vegas Knights got their first win in franchise history. The Blackhawks scored 10 goals in a game, and Alex Ovechkin already has 2 hat tricks. One thing that isn't as crazy is the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins are once again favored to win the Stanley Cup. But in your mind, which team has the best chance to take down the Pens? Thomas?
Well, Mark, I'm going with my hometown
Oh,
Nashville
Corso.
Predators. That's
Lee
right.
Corso.
I'm calling for a rematch. Last year in the playoffs, with the exception of Mike Fisher and Pekka Rinne, they were a young, inexperienced team who, as an 8th seed, still made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. This year, they still have their stars, Philip Forsberg, PK Subban, and I believe that the Preds are on the prowl for revenge, and they have the experience to finally do it this year.
It's going to be very interesting to see. The Preds definitely one of those sleeper teams. And the 8th seed to make it to the Stanley Cup, that was very impressive. They're definitely going to be a lot better this year. Nick?
Mark, the Tampa Bay Lightning are stacked like pancakes.
Ooh.
Nikita Kucherov, Tyler Johnson, Steven Stamkos, 21-year-old Braden Point, fitting last name. He has 7 points in just 3 games on the year. In the offseason, they added Chris Kunitz from the Penguins. They lost Ben Bishop to Dallas, but Vasilevsky's a great goaltender in net, one of the best in the NHL. I like what the Lightning are doing. I think they have a perfect balance of youth talent with veteran leadership. That'll help them immensely in the regular season, but even more come playoff time. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and I think they're taking Lord Stanley back to the Sunshine State this season.
Ooh, that would be very cool. A team that was in the Stanley Cup final, I believe, 3 years ago against the Blackhawks. That was a great series. We'd love to see Stamkos back in the Stanley Cup final. Christine?
I'm going to have to go with the Chicago Blackhawks on this one. So they played very well against the Penguins, 10-1, and they beat the Blue Jackets. And they have an amazing save percentage, .971%. They have great offensive plays. I think that they're really going to come through this season, even though they're kind of the underdog right now.
I'm a big Blackhawks fan. Would love to see them in the Stanley Cup, but I don't know if I feel it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to go with Nick here on this one. I think the Lightning are stacked. They're ready to compete, and I think it's going to be I think they're a sleeper team to watch. So I like that. Good point. All right, awesome stuff, guys. That's it for now. We've got Rapid Fire up next, and you don't want to miss it. Welcome back into College Crossfire. It's heating up for some Rapid Fire. For those of you watching at home, each question in Rapid Fire is worth 2 points, so anyone can still take home the victory. Let's go ahead and take a look at the scoreboard. It's 3, 2, 1 in that order. Thomas with 1, but he's still got a lot of time left to get back in this one. All right, guys, here we go. We're going to stay on the 40 acres for this one. Longhorns quarterback Sam Ehlinger was not sacked once during the Kansas State game and rewarded his offensive linemen by buying them all donuts. Always a classy move by a quarterback to give his O-line some recognition. But if you were a quarterback, what would you buy your offensive line to let the big fellas know you appreciate the hard work? And it's rapid fire, so anyone can jump in.
Wow. That's a good question. I'm thinking Xbox consoles. Now, you got to have a lot of money for that. But everybody, exactly. Sam's got, money is not a problem for the Ehlinger family. So I'm saying if you get them all Xboxes, you know the big uglies like their video games. So I think Ehlinger should get them an Xbox. That's just me.
You guys are going to have to compete with Xboxes.
Okay, so here's what I think. Tom Herman paid about $10,000 each locker over the offseason. So you upgrade the offensive linemen's lockers. You know, drop $5,000 on them. What's that?
How are you upgrading the locker? What are you doing?
How are you upgrading them? Well, they're linemen, so you got to get them bigger.
Okay.
Maybe add a back massager, something like that. And he bought them donuts. Maybe you have donuts delivered to the locker every morning.
Ooh, very nice. Christine?
Y'all went really expensive. I was going straight with the food route, like full-on all-you-can-eat food, like full-on burrito bar, buffet style. I would love food if I was playing that well, so I would go with the food aspect.
I'm going with Christine just because we're college students. We can't afford that expensive stuff. And offensive linemen, you know they love to eat, so Christine's getting 2 points. She takes the lead. Going back to the soccer world, guys, obviously a very disappointing loss for the U.S. men's soccer team last night. That loss to Trinidad and Tobago. The rapid-fire question is simple. Person who gets the closest guess to the total population of Trinidad and Tobago population gets the points. You guys jump in.
I think I'm pretty close on this, so I'm going to let those two go first because I don't want them stealing my
Christine,
answer.
You're leading right now. Go ahead.
10,467.
10,467.
I'm going 15,000.
15,000.
I'm going to say 1 million. 1 million.
All right, and I know it's a small country, but it's not that small. Come on.
See, it's about 1 million, right?
Boston. It's 1.365 million.
Wow.
And in In comparison,
Yes.
Texas is 27.86 million, and the U.S. is 323 million. So Nick's getting the points. He takes the lead back. All right, last question of the night. Back to some hockey talk. Jaromir Jagr just signed a deal with the Calgary Flames for what will be his 28th season in the NHL. 28 years in any sport is just incredible. So the question is this: what current athlete would you like to see play for as long as Jagr has in their respective sport?
Easy one. LeBron James. Why? He's the greatest player to ever step on a basketball court. No question. LeBron James is the GOAT. I know you're a Bulls guy. You like MJ. LeBron James is the freakiest athlete I have ever seen. You can like him. You can hate him. He's a dominant athlete. I think he's the greatest of all time. I'd love to see him play
All right,
forever.
question. If he plays for 28 years, how many titles does he win?
A lot. A lot.
than 10?
28
Bill
years.
Russell?
If he plays, are you saying 28 more years?
28 total.
28 total years.
Was he at
Ooh.
like 14, 15 right now?
I think this will be his 14th season, I want to say.
Yeah,
And he
2003,
won,
yeah, 2014.
yeah, so, and he's won 3. So I'll say if he throw in 14 more years, he could win 6.
Six?
6, maybe even more. 6 more. Add that to 9. I like 9.
that. All right, guys.
I'm going to go with a very personal choice, but let's go with Eli Manning.
Eli
because
Manning.
Wow.
Maybe if he plays for that long, we might get another Super Bowl win for the New York Giants.
Maybe they can
So
win the game.
I have hopes. Let's see. Maybe he'll play for a lot longer and we'll win again.
For the record, real quick, I'm a Cowboys fan. I would love to see Eli Manning play forever. I'd love to see that.
I
That's
can
just
say
me.
the same thing as a Redskins fan. But I'm from San Antonio. I love Manu Ginobili. I think he's one of the
Okay.
funnest players to watch in the league. Last year with that block on James Harden, can you imagine him in 10 years? It would just be incredible. The bald spot, there would be no more bald spot. He would just be, they would just be completely bald. But he's not just good on the field. Do you remember a couple years ago when he swatted the bat out of the
that
air?
was awesome.
So could you imagine, give him say probably 10 more years, that would be about 28. How many more bats can he swat out of the air in 10 more years? I'm thinking at least 3. So I'd love to see Manu go. For a little
Thomas,
while.
you're getting the point here because I love Manu Ginobili. I think he's great. And all right, guys, for the first time ever on Crossfire, we're doing 4 questions in rapid fire.
Wow.
Don't have a prompter for this one.
Jeez.
So this one is going to win it right here. This one-
Whoa.
whoever wins this one
Okay.
gets it. So on Monday earlier this week, the Florida Gators released their jerseys for this weekend's game. It's the Florida Gator skin. It looks like an actual Gator skin jersey. Not very good looking jersey. So the question is this, guys: what is the worst jersey in all of sports? Whoever gets it gets the win.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bumblebees. We're tied.
The
We both get the
Bumblebee
Bumblebee, the old throwback. Dang it.
It is so bad. It's ugly.
Okay.
And
like the Bumblebee.
no, here's the deal. The Steelers once wore the Bumblebee, and they defeated my Washington Redskins, so I will forever hate the Bumblebee.
Okay, Bumblebee. Bad memories with Thomas there on the end. You guys gonna get anything different?
I was with the Steelers too, but I think another one is any University of Oklahoma jersey.
Ooh.
Crimson and cream is disgusting, let's be honest. It's not an opinion, that's a fact. There's scientific evidence to back that up. Any OU jersey,
Yeah,
any
that
sport,
crimson
any
color,
color,
it's just like-
disgusting.
Oh.
It's off.
I just feel like throwing
It's
up
up.
every time.
I
see it.
do most of the time. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. So.
The first one that came to mind was TCU
Ooh,
because
TCU,
just the
another big
purple
club
and the
rival.
green together is just a terrible combination, like the blue and orange, and then they throw in the gator skin. So
Yeah.
I just feel like it's a bad combination.
All 3 good answers, but I'm going with Nick. It's OU.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those OU colors. Oh, that crimson.
That's
Oh.
right, freshman.
So Nick Kucholtz is getting his first win of the semester.
First win ever.
First win. Oh, first win ever.
Ever.
Wow.
0-2 last year, but first win ever.
All right. Do we have time for FaceTime? All right, Nick, take it away.
FaceTime, this one's easy. I got to talk about Baker Mayfield. Horrible facial hair, awful tooth gap, talks mess. He's been good in college because he's been put in a great situation to succeed by good coaches and weapons all around him. Very overrated. He'll never play it down in the NFL, and I cannot wait personally for Sam Ehlinger to beat up on him come Saturday afternoon.
Wow, big. We
Wow.
talked about it earlier. What's your score prediction for the game? Can I get score predictions from everyone?
I'll say, earlier I said 35-28, but I think Texas is going to score more. I don't think the Oklahoma defense is good. I'll say 42-28.
Yeah, they didn't look good against Baylor.
I say 30-28 Texas. Believe it or not, Texas wins on a game-winning field goal.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Are they going to get
Wow.
Bigger to come on the
No.
Are
Chris,
you
did see
kicking?
Chris Warren was warming up kicking last game.
Ooh.
He kicks the game winner.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's bold right there, Christine.
I'll go
Score
with
prediction?
35-30. I feel like
Texas?
Texas
Okay,
for
agree
sure.
Texas across the board.
Yeah, I think Texas is definitely going to win that one, but I think it'll be with the touchdowns. And I mean, it might be a close game, but not super close.
Okay, I like it. I like it. All right, guys. Nick Kucholtz is your winner. Congratulations. That's it for College Crossfire. Don't miss College Press Box next Monday at 9 for a recap of all sports news on the 40 Acres. Special thanks to everyone in studio, Master Control, and to you for spending your Wednesday night with us. Till next time, I'm Mark Skol Jr. Good night.
Yeah.